loved enough in the relationship to feel free to go, free to disagree? Are you loved enough in the relationship to feel free to stand alone in togetherness? See, being alone does not mean you are not in relation to others. In fact, to be in relation to another, you have to be willing to stand on your own next to them, stand on your own for them. Sometimes an act of defiance in solitude and in sovereignty inside of a relationship is an act of advocacy for the relationship to continue. Because if you did not, the relationship continues in a manner which is ultimately toxic. In a relationship with another, if you cannot disagree, leave, or stand alone without punishment, without social consequences, then you are not in a healthy connection. The connection's toxic. I want you to know, if you're listening, that many horse trainers and equestrian professionals have a toxic relationship to their work. I have many equestrian professionals who listen to this podcast and many people who are not working in the sector, but they have horses in their lives and they hire equestrian professionals. So all of us listening know an equestrian professional. So that's vets, horse trainers, farriers, instructors, boarding barn, livery barn managers, etc. Not all of us are saints, and not all of us are saints all the time. However, many equestrian professionals have a toxic relationship to their work. I would even be so brash and bold and even risk a little hubris to state that I think that most equestrian professionals have a toxic relationship to their work. Why? Well, if we look at power dynamics, how many equestrian professionals are actually free to disagree with mainstream methods, tools, or techniques? How many equestrian professionals themselves actually have the skill to develop horses without sticks, without bits, without force, without spurs? How many of us actually have the timing, empathy, feel, and awareness of science to develop horses without these pieces of equipment? How many of us actually can develop horses like this, but we're actually not free to disagree with mainstream methods, tools, or techniques? They're not free to disagree because these equestrian professionals are under pressure to go faster. There are too many horses, not enough time. They are under pressure to get results now, for you, the client, to leverage the horse into action sooner, easier, I say in parentheses, easier compliance. Yeah, easier for the client, but someone's paying that bill somewhere, usually the horse. Sharper action now. To slow down their horse training, to slow down their profession, is an act of rebellion. Allowing the horse the advantage over the human is a dangerous act. How dare the horse actually have their ideas in the training? How dare the equestrian professional have their ideas in the training? Saying not right now to a client can literally cause financial ruin for some people, especially local service providers. Now, I'm an equestrian professional, but I'm fortunate and I've got a privilege. That's why I'm able to speak on this freely. My privilege is that I'm not a local service provider. I'm not bound to a geographical location where there is a limited number of people around me who can enable me to make a living. I'm focusing on an international community because at this time, the way I train horses and work with horses is extremely niche, extremely unpopular, and therefore there are many of us, but we are spread all over the globe and we're all living in different corners. And so through the internet, through technology, I'm able to work. In the future, I will work locally once I develop my Spanish, but I digress. Having worked as a local service provider for better part of a decade, and then deciding that it was holding me back from being authentic as a professional, I know both sides of this coin. I also am really lucky, fortunate, and grateful to have a community of people, of clients around me, around us, me and my team, who I've introduced on the podcast so far, who love us, love our work, love what we're doing, and are committed to working with us all year. And because of this consistency of work, because there is enough work for me to make a living, and because I really trust these people, love these people, like these people, get along with these people, because of that, I am now free to disagree. I am now free to stand alone in togetherness. I am now free to give you a peek behind the curtain as a client. And I'm now free to potentially be a mouthpiece for many equestrian professionals that think and feel this but can't say this. Because in my opinion, these issues is the primary driver behind the proliferation of poor training and mediocre training of horses, but not only horses, of the people too. As a client, you get a really raw deal when your instructor has to ask your horse to swallow some kind of shit sandwich so that you can feel validated by the horse right now. It actually helps nobody beyond giving an instant gratification sensation that needs quick replenishing as soon as you've felt it. Take away that instant gratification, the constant emotional upholding through inauthentic validation of a community that is not considering the truth, and many horse people would have some kind of break with reality, a crisis. It might fry our brains to consider that the horse actually doesn't feel free with them, that the horse actually is not ready to do what they want, that the horse is probably not healthy enough, that their hands are not skilled enough in this moment to develop the horse the way that they desire it to be developed, and so on. Ask me how I know this. Do you think I've never experienced this? It's because I've walked this walk and I've experienced this that I can speak on it. I've been there. My brain fried the day I realized that I was being upheld emotionally by my instructors, that I was getting inauthentic validation that was attempting to give me results now at the expense of tomorrow's learning and tomorrow's growth. I've been there. To turn away from validation that is inauthentic, to speak the truth, to call a spade respectfully, plainly, is an act many equestrian professionals absolutely cannot do. It would be ruinous to their living. I need anyone reading or listening or researching or trying or practicing the equestrian arts to remember that their farrier, their instructor, their vet, their trainer, their boarding barn manager is absolutely not free or at liberty to tell the truth with you in a proactive way because you hold power over them with your financial investment in their work. You think they hold power over you with their information, their skill, and perceived authority. I promise you, they are the ones who feel less in control in your relationship with them because you're holding the financial cards. And unfortunately, we live in a late stage capitalist hellscape where everyone's struggling to make a living. Have you ever tried making a living with horses? Exactly. In this economy? Are you kidding me? If we as clients want our service providers who are saying that they're horse first in their hearts, but to liberate them to have the freedom to be horse first with their tongues and their hands too, we as clients need to be proactive. Here are some of my suggestions. Ask your equestrian professional to slow down. Ask them. Tell them explicitly in plain language that you would like slower work and slower results, that you would prefer and actually respect them more if the results were slower and more consolidated. Inform them that you would like the truth from them and that you don't need them to couch it, disguise it in inauthentic validation. I have to have this conversation with my team as well. Don't be diplomatic with me. Don't handle me with kid gloves. Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth respectfully. I promise that I will not fire you for saying the truth, and you need to tell your horse pro. I promise you, I will continue to hire you if you tell me the truth. Tell your horse pro and signpost for them that humble improvement based on your strengths and awareness of your weaknesses is your goal. Ask for a list of both. Ask your equestrian professional to signpost for you what they think your blind spots are, and what they think your strengths are, and discuss ways you can utilize your strengths to illuminate your blind spots. Don't ask your equestrian professional to only tell you that you're perfect, you're beautiful, you're looking like Linda Evangelista. That's a RuPaul reference. If you know, you know. Offer to pay your professional a little extra to take their time with the horse to make it balance for them, and so on. If you can do this for the team that you assemble to help care for your horse, you now have an empathic point of reference to do this with your horse. You will allow your horse to tell you the truth, even if the truth is something that's hard for you to hear. For example, you ask for trot, the horse shakes their head and doesn't, and walks instead. And instead of getting a stick, instead of wearing spurs, you listen. And you say, okay, why? You will allow your horse to escape your influence, welcoming them back if they want. For example, if you're practicing quote unquote liberty work, then it needs to be liberty. The horse needs to be able to escape your influence. If you're chasing a horse in a round pen with no corners and they can't even go into a corner to escape your influence, it's not liberty. If your liberty horse is circling around you with their nose attached to your body geometry and your spatial geometry and is absolutely not departing your influence, not one iota, and that was developed over days, weeks, or months rather than decades, then that horse is likely not to be free. Likely not. Could be. Likely not, though. Is your horse able to escape your influence? Are they free to leave at any time and come back if they want? You might allow disobedience to your aids, as I've hinted to just now, and you will meet that calm conflict with curiosity. You will lean into the space where the horse is not responsive, because in that space is vital information about what is appropriate now, what the horse is able to do now, what the horse likes and dislikes now, knowing that their answers right now are not their answers for all time, but a statement of what has just happened with enough honesty to tell you the truth. I want you to know that if you've ever worried or been concerned about what is the right thing to do with the horse, is it appropriate to be lunging them over trot poles right now? Is it appropriate to be doing sustained canter right now? Are they ready for lateral work, yes or no? Are they ready for riding, yes or no? Do they actually like being here with me, yes or no? If you're confused about these basic parameters, you're probably confused because you have a horse that's not telling you the truth. If you want to know for sure, you need to allow disobedience. Disobedience is the only data point available to us, the only true sign of validation that autonomy and consent is still on the table. If you want to know that your horse is really in connection with you, you will allow your horse to disagree with you regularly. If you have a tantrum, and I'm not trying to make you feel bad about yourself, I promise. But if we have a tantrum when we don't get what we want from our horse, I want you to know that your horse is aware of that. And some horses will then, next time, double think about giving you the truth because they can't stand next to you while you're tantruming. That's not helpful. That's not a good social partner. That's not safety. We're not safe next to a creature that's tantruming. We are a child with a bib on, angry we didn't get Fruit Loops. We need to grow up. I need to grow up. I need to be willing to not get what I want from my horses. I need to be willing to not get what I want from my equestrian professionals that I hire. I need to be willing to not get what I want from my team. I need to be willing to not get what I want from my clients. And I need to be willing to not get what I want from the people I collaborate with in the industry. And I need to not tantrum when that happens. It's the only way we can know that autonomy is still on the table. Because essentially, if you are getting everything you want all the time, like a prince or a princess, something is wrong somewhere. Someone else is picking up the tab. We are not supposed to always get what we want unless we are absolutely alone and living in a vacuum. When in relation with others, be that horse or human, it requires compromise, listening, adjusting, and letting go of our perceived entitlement. There is nothing wrong with being wrong sometimes. In fact, being wrong sometimes is so, so right. It could be the single biggest medicine to what is ailing all of us right now. So that was me partially reading and partially extemporaneously extrapolating upon a post I just wrote for social media this morning. And I've written this after being inspired by the people I'm working with. And I'm watching them navigate exactly this with their horses. I was watching someone today. They had submitted a video for me to review. They wanted my comments. And I watched their horse leave and then come back. And every time they came back with a lightness that got lighter each time they returned, like a boomerang. Each time they left and came back, it got lighter and somehow deeper at the same time, and somehow softer and stronger. The more the horse was free to go, the stronger the relationship got. The more the horse was free to say no, the stronger the relationship got. And the horse wasn't trying to validate the person. The horse was trying to be honest. My job is to be honest, to call a spade a spade. My job is not to validate people. That's not my job. Now, if someone needs that so that they don't have their try destroyed, I have to wonder, how did they get so far at the end of their rope that they need an emotional crutch? They need another adult to uphold them mentally and emotionally so that they can continue. If that's the case, should we be working with horses? These are questions, not conclusions that I have. And when I get lessons with my team, because, me and my team, Michelle, Christy, and I, we all work with each other, right? Michelle works with me, I work with Michelle, Christy works with me, I work with Christy. We work in a circle with each other. We assist each other in developing each other. And if they handle me with kid gloves, I'm suspicious, deeply suspicious of that. I don't want yes men or women around me. I don't want people who create an echo chamber. I'm not interested in constant validation and being told I'm perfect, I'm beautiful, I look like Linda Evangelista. That's a RuPaul reference. If you know, you know. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the truth. I'm interested in calling a spade, knowing full well that the consequences for doing that in the industry at large are really, really serious. I have experienced that time and time again. So I'm coming to you today with this solo episode because we've had 4 episodes already. I introduced the season, then we met Christy, then we met Michelle, and then we met my longtime friend, Laurie Halliday. And I love them because they tell the truth and they are doing this work with a capital W. They are trying to find ways to tell the truth even more, right? To find ways that don't restrain us, that unbridled authenticity. And that's really what I'm looking for from the industry. What I'm not looking for is this political obfuscation. People who talk and talk and talk and somehow ingratiate themselves to both sides of the fence without offending either side of the fence. If you stand with everyone, you stand with nobody, let me tell you. I'm deeply suspicious of people who say they support someone or something or an idea, but at the same time play this middle ground to their advantage, that they want to not lose their mainstream appeal. So they seek to not ever up-tip somebody's apple cart, even if that apple cart needs to be up-tipped because they're carrying something that's not good for them. They will leave someone with toxicity before they tell the truth to someone in a way that could liberate them from that toxicity. If someone's doing rubbish to a horse and someone's saying, no, no, it's okay. I don't judge you. I don't judge you. I don't judge you. I don't judge you for whipping. I don't judge you for pulling. I don't judge you for driving the horse forwards when it's inappropriate. I don't judge you for all of that. Glass houses. Those in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. We've all sinned. All of our hands are dirty. So I don't judge anyone for being hard on horses. No, we don't judge. But at some point, we need to have critical thinking. At some point, we need to say, hey, you can do better. Hey, I actually don't stand for that. Hey, let us all lean into the deep curiosity of what the space between a horse and human could look and feel like if we left all of that alone. What happened if I asked my community to drop sticks just for a month? Just for a month, just to see what's there. What might be there in curiosity if I left the bit alone and encouraged all of my community to do the same? What would happen if I asked at the next clinic that nobody wore spurs and that we just saw what might happen? And if the horses move the same, well, passa nada, nothing happened. And if the horses move slower, well, then maybe they're supposed to be moving slower. Was the spur giving me something that I shouldn't have had? Was the spur creating a shortcut and a hole in the training? That later, that hole in the training is eventually filled with lameness, disease, dysfunction, catastrophic fail. If you're hearing a background noise, it's my office cat snoring. I'm going to leave it in. So all of these leverage devices, and there are so many of them, have become so normalized that even a respectful voice saying, I'm a partial objector or at least a full objector in nuance to that tool, if that causes people to completely lose their mind, I have to ask why. And if you're coming out in support of someone who says something like, I don't like riding with bits, and you say, I support you, and at the same time, I support people who use bits too, well, you're really standing with nobody. You're on the fence, mate. You are on the fence. We have to make a decision. Let me give you my decision. When it comes to bits, generally, I'm not for them. But I still use them for a very specific reason. Now, I won't elucidate that specific reason. Now, if you pay attention to season 2, in several episodes' time, I've recorded a long podcast with a lovely colleague of mine where we discuss this in detail. But generally speaking, I ride normally. And when I say ride normally, I mean ride without a bit. I don't say bit less because I'm not without anything. I've got everything I need. When it comes to sticks, it's a 95% no from me. And I have a lot of nuance around that conversation. But I won't go into nuance right now because nobody is entitled to my nuance all the time. I mean, true talk, but I'm not trying to ingratiate myself to the whip community. I'm willing to lose business over that. I would just like people to be curious when they learn from me or lean into my work. What might our horsemanship and riding look like if a stick wasn't present or if a whip wasn't whipping or even if it was there? People say, oh, I'm holding it, but I'm not using it. Sorry, if you're holding it, you're using it. The sky is blue, no matter how many times we say it's not. Water is wet. Black is black and white is white. And then nuance can follow, right? So I'm interested in leaning into these spaces where we are without so many advantages over the horse. I am interested in leaning into these spaces where we really drop the leverage and really ask questions that have no even hint of leverage behind them. And when I say leverage, it means exponential ability to overpower somehow, somewhere, even if you use that in a benign way or even if your intention is good. I'm really interested in disarming horsemanship and riding. I want to disarm that and really give the advantage to the horses for once. This is our time to do it because we don't need horses to do these things. This is now a pleasure pursuit. If there was any time in history where we could really ask the horses how they feel, now is the time where we are actually able to ask that question. We, as horse people, are actually safe enough in the relationship and loved enough by horses in the relationship to feel free to ask real questions now, and real questions that are not loaded with the answers that we want and prefer. Just want people to think about it. I don't want to judge anyone. Believe me, I think there's a big difference between what people do and who people are. You can be a really good person and be doing something that I am critical of. I still think you're a good person to your bones. You're just doing something that I don't agree with. It's like being a vegetarian at a steak restaurant. I don't judge people for eating steak, but I choose not to eat it. A vegan would judge me for eating fish. Or a vegan would sit next to me and happily eat their vegan meal while I eat fish, and they would look and smile and say, I love you. I respect your choice, but that's not my choice. We have to allow people to start engaging in critical thinking for themselves. We have to start allowing people to be different. If you require everyone around you to be like you, it's a high control environment and it's not freedom in relationship with the other. If you rely upon the horse to give you everything you want and you're calling that connection, it's not. Unfortunately, it's just not. So the joyful aspect of this is it should liberate you in your work. If you're doing something with a horse and they suddenly are divergent to your ask and don't give you what you want, I want you to laugh and celebrate and go, oh, thank God I was worried that consent wasn't on the table. Thank God I was worried my horse was in toxic connection with me. Thank God they disagreed with me. Thank you for disagreeing. I'm glad to know you're still here. I'm glad to know you're still free to disagree. Thank you for standing alone inside of our togetherness, because that is an invitation from the horse for you to be closer to them. That is an invitation from the horse for you to be better. Don't you want to be better? Don't you want to be better? If you're more interested in being validated than you are in improvement, we can't call that learning to call a spade a spade. Validation comes from ability, and ability comes from looking critically at what's going wrong and knowing what's going right. Everyone take a breath. Take a breath. So, this little episode is me just summing up the year so far. I'm 6 weeks into my work year because I started in February. And I'm just summing up the year so far. And I'm around the corner from a world tour. I can say world tour because I've got a one-way ticket all the way around. And I'm very grateful for that. I'll be in Australia, I'll be in New Zealand, I'll be in the United States. If the United States is still there come May, and I hope you are. In October, I will be in Canada. I will be in British Columbia, in Edmonton, and in Almonte in Ontario. And I'm looking forward to seeing you there if you'd have me. And I also understand if my messages are not in alignment for you right now. I understand. I understand even if you've booked a ticket and that you hear my messages and you say, I am now too afraid to stand in front of him because I feel like the force of his critical thinking is just too hard for me to look at right now, too hard for me to consider, or I'm concerned, or it just makes me vibrate in a way that makes me feel uneasy. I say, I agree with you. I love you. I'm not trying to be anything other than myself. But I also want you to know that anyone who stands in front of me, I treat with the utmost respect. I won't handle you with kid gloves because I believe it's disrespectful to your intelligence to handle you with kid gloves. I believe in you as an adult, as a free thinker, as a sovereign being, enough that you can hear at least my perspective on the truth. And I'm willing for you to say, I actually don't agree with that, Lockie. And I'm willing for you to say that in front of an audience at a clinic. Hey, I don't agree with that. And I would laugh and say, I'm so glad that consent is still on the table. I'm so glad you're still finding autonomy here in relationship with me. Because if I'm asking a client to do something and they're doing everything I'm saying for them to do, it's a huge red flag for me. Your personal autonomy is really important to me. And I want you to maintain connection to yourself if you're interested in connecting with a professional. And I know that I will just be, for many people, symbolic of every professional they've ever worked with. That if I'm a dude standing in a room, even though I'm gay, but if I'm a male presenting person in a room full of horse people with a microphone on, I will represent certain things to them. And I understand that. But at the same time, I'm really hoping you would consider that you are loved enough in the relationship to be free to go and free to disagree and free to stand alone in togetherness. Because if you cannot disagree, leave, stand alone without punishment and without consequences, it's not a healthy connection. The connection is toxic. And I'm interested in not having a toxic connection to you, to my work, or to a horse. There is so much joy and beauty to be found in horsemanship, in riding, in training, in caring and living with and for horses. There is so much beauty to be found in the space where you ask and you don't get. I really, really enjoy that. I enjoy it so much. I'm starting to wonder if it's masochistic of me to actually enjoy that much. I'm really enjoying this space where I have an idea and the horse has a different one. I'm really enjoying that space. And I'm discovering that in advanced partnerships with mature horses who are healthy, when they disagree, it's not always with anger. Usually it's not. Usually horses disagree extremely calmly. And often, almost every single time, if they're really confident with you, they will disagree and give you a different idea. They'll say, oh, how about this? And if you follow that, that doesn't necessarily create a dangerous situation every time. Sometimes it does. One example where it does create danger is when you say, hey, horse, can we go left? And the horse says, no, I'm going right and I'm going to drag you as I go right. That is not what I'm talking about. That's dangerousness. That's you losing your autonomy as the horse explores theirs. This is messy stuff, right? It won't be a clean break for freedom. As your horse makes a break for freedom, they might overcorrect and take your autonomy and your safety with them as they explore this. Many people have experienced that. When they experienced the horse's overcorrection when they made a break for freedom, somehow that was confirmation bias for them that giving the horse the freedom was dangerous somehow, and so we shouldn't allow it at all. But a true confident horseman, horse person, and handler would allow that, would create a safe container, a laboratory of exploration for the horse to make a break for their freedom and go too far. But you've created a laboratory where that is safe and permissible. So that would be, well, we're not going to go trail riding for a little while as this horse is exploring these new limits. I'm not going to ask for the most active behavior my horse can do right now, because if they are going a little bit too far and taking my safety with them whilst they're also doing a canter departure, then the stakes are higher and the catastrophic fail of safety in that instance could be really, really egregious. So we're going to stick to maybe down-regulated, or we're going to stick to calmer, more stationary behaviors at this moment while we explore the relational nuances of giving the horse their ability to disagree and to leave. And I have very specific techniques that I actually start with in training at clinics and with my own horses. It's what I start with, is creating safe parameters for horses to disagree, create safe parameters to discover that they can disagree and that they don't have to take safety with them as they do so. That it's not all or nothing. You don't have to say no thank you and say no thank you and you're bad and I'm going to hurt you as I say no thank you. Right? It's the same principle that informs people who back horses up in a punishing manner for getting too close to them. If you've ever had a horse get a little space invadery, formerly known as pushy, but a horse who just doesn't have the nuanced understanding of spatial geometry to be close to you with precision and safety, right? Someone who says, hey, you're too close to me, get out of my space, and then keep going, and you're bad for doing that. That's an overcorrection. You can just say, well, that's my space. This is mine and this is yours. And we bring that together in a way that doesn't harm me and doesn't harm you. And when I say harm, I don't only mean physical harm, right? There are many forms of harm. I really enjoy leaning into this space. And in my opinion, this is where the development of horse training and the innovation of horse training is really going to live for quite a while. We have to start leaning into these spaces where we look at the things we're most afraid of, such as lack of responsivity, such as lack of correctness, such as unresponsiveness to aids, such as disobedience. We have to start leaning into these things and listening to the lessons that it holds so that we can return to a cooperative nature with the horse, so that we can turn to harmony and unity without that being a hypnotized scenario where the horse is actually coerced into having no choice and we make it look like they have choice. We need to stop making freedom be an optical illusion. Freedom needs to be an internal sensation from the horse, not an optical illusion. If I see a Liberty trainer with 17 sticks in their hands and a horse who is not leaving sometimes, I am suspicious of that. That doesn't mean I automatically judge and say that's bad. I can't do that. I do have a critical thought that says, I wonder if that horse is actually free. There is a famous horse circus called Cavalia, and I saw it, must be over 10 years ago now, when they were in Melbourne. Beautiful. And I got the horse lover ticket and enabled me to do a tour of the stable afterwards and see the horses and speak to the riders, etc. And there were a couple of Liberty performances where, with a large number of horses, by the way, where there were one or two horses who were divergent in the performance. So every other horse was wheeling around in a circle, all shoulder to shoulder with each other, wheeling around the handler who did have a stick. And then there'd be one horse in the middle who went, no, and would kind of peel away from the group, run over into the corner, buck fart, toss their head, ring about, and then come back and continue. And all the horse people in the audience laughed with, on one hand, humor, and on the other hand, relief to see that, okay, I'm watching sort of behavioral miracles, but it's still relatable because these horses still have the freedom to come and go, even in this context. And the handler would laugh when the horse would peel away and buck fart and be divergent and say, no, I'm going to say no just to test. Just to test our relationship. Do you lose your shit when I say no? Because if you lose your shit when I say no, we are not in relationship with each other. I'm testing. And frankly, I do the same thing with the industry at large. Take the hint, guys. The reason why I'm coming on hot sometimes, and the reason why a lot of people don't like me, is because I'm testing my relationship to the industry. If I am divergent and the industry loses their mind, if I am standing alone in disagreement with a colleague and they blackball me, if I say no thank you to mainstream practices and people descend upon me with pitchforks and flaming torches, that connection to the industry was never healthy in the first place. I am testing the relationship. I will test every person in my life, every person, personal and professional. Am I free in this relationship to disagree with you? If I'm not free to disagree with you, there is no true relationship here. It's something else. You're leaning on me, or I'm leaning on you. We're actually pushy with each other in the space where we can't disagree with you. If you ever meet a pushy horse, you're also meeting a horse who's actually not safe to disagree. And they're pushing because they're trying to let you know, let me disagree with you. Let me disagree with you. Allow me to disagree with you, and don't energetically crumble when I disagree with you. Stand in yourself. Be all right in yourself when I disagree with you. Laugh. Be light. Levity to the disagreement. Yes, even and especially in an emergency. Laugh in the disagreement. So that's the Lockie diatribe for today. I think that's quite enough of that. I'm going to go back to my work day. And my work day is consisting today of working with my horses, working with some lovely people, and developing a new online platform where I'm bringing everything together in one really beautiful, functional space. I'm so looking forward to sharing that with you. And between you and me and the fence post, I'm about to sign off on another little piece of land, a little cheap piece of land near my home where the horses can have some space to be free. Are you free to disagree? Are you free to stand alone in togetherness? I invite you to do so and consider that I will not leave you. If you disagree, I will smile and stand with you in your disagreement. Thanks for listening. Be grounded out there. It's crazy making times. Be safe, be grounded. Take care now. Thank you for listening to the Emotional Horsemanship podcast and this solo episode, which felt like the freedom to disagree. If you would like to explore your horse's freedom to disagree with you, I'd like to invite you to take the first step with me via the Emotional Horsemanship Foundation online course, and you can find the sign-up link in the show notes below. Thank you for being here, and I hope you're looking forward to the lineup of guests I've got set up for this season. Got 15 episodes already recorded. So excited for you to hear some of these conversations going forward. See you next week.